Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in to the Tanso Racing Group GR86 Season 9. And, well, what a great season has been so far. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're basically going to jump straight in to the action, basically, as we're sitting here currently in qualifying. Now, obviously, this race did happen Sunday. We did broadcast this on Sunday. However, none of the classes, as you can see on the left-hand side of the screen that I'll go through in a moment, were actually showing properly, and they now are. So this broadcast is brought to you to replace those and basically do one better, should we say. So yes, welcome in from wherever you are in the world watching live here with us today. And I look forward to bringing you some fantastic racing and no doubt, hopefully, some action-packed stuff as well. As we do have cars out on the track at the minute. Some are going around, some aren't. And here's one that is. And it's your quickest man of the session so far. That's Mr. Dan Wareham. Is Soapy Suds leading in the Simtech racing livery there, the gold and light blue. 2 minutes left of qualifying before we jump straight into the races. And then we'll bring you all your results and keep you up to date with all the action that is going on the track throughout this day of racing. I keep wanting to say this evening, but obviously we're not on normal times on when we would actually complete these races, so this is something a little different time difference, shall we say, for this session. Nevertheless, we're going to be treated to some awesome stuff, no doubt. Obviously, you can see on the left hand side as we go through the colours then, so the blue stripes next to all the numbers there. Obviously, the numbers are their position. The coloured stripes are their car classes. So let's start from the top and work our way down. Now, the green one is a special one. You'll see there's only one green tag out there. And let me show you what that does. So if we jump to Kevin Woodmore, you see that jumps down to Kevin Woodmore. So basically, the green line will indicate which car we are following. And in this case, it is Dan Wareham. So he lights up green. However, his standard colour would be blue, same as Scott McFall and Raz Harper. So they are the pro classes. And the pro class all does show up as the blue stripe. Now going down the grid then to Sean Webber, P4 overall currently. That yellow stripe indicates that he is a Pro-Am. So the Pro-Am class there in between. And then into the red zone, and that red zone is actually for the AM classes. So all the reds you see out there, that is for the AM division class. So that is something to look out for, as these guys will do battle here once more very, very soon. But those are the colours to keep an eye on, and that is the order as well, as it's going to kick down where I'm off the track any second. We'll bring you your grid positions as well for the starting race. And here is your grid as it lines up. Dan Wareham on P1, Scott McFall P2, Raz Harper P3, Sean Webber P4, Scott Brown P5, Craig Corish P6, Peter Duke P7, Mark Brown P8, Dan Forster P9, Tim Walters P10, Adrian Hadfield P11, and Lee Rylands in P12. Scrolling down the grid, we have Chris Moore P13, Mark Proctor P14, we have Frederic in P15, Peter Woodmore P16, Michael Walters, Michael Elms P17 and 18. Then next row of the grid we have Kevin Woodmore and John Johnston P19 and P20, Stuart Briley P21, John Kenny P22, Terry Atkinson P23, and Jordan Hadfield P24. Those are your drivers for today's grid, and there is your leader sitting on the grid at the moment. Now he is he's a man with a lot of speed, and we're going to have to keep close eyes on him as he looks to go and take the first victory of the evening. And to keep an eye on where he is on the track, let us present to you the track map on the right-hand side of the screen there. Obviously, it has been adjusted, like we said in a previous broadcast. We would get that moved so it doesn't battle with the logos, and it certainly doesn't now, nowhere near some of the logos, in fact. So, obviously, don't forget this season is proudly sponsored by Aqua Twist, as you can see there in the top right hand corner. So they are the season 9 sponsors for the Tanso Racing Group. And fantastic opportunity for both Tanso and the sponsoring company as well. As we wait for just the last couple of drivers to get on to the grid, that'll be Scott McFall and Jordan Hadfield. Then we can kick it off and get underway. For, like I said, some fantastic racing. Obviously, we have seen what happened on Sunday. Well, I will not bring you any spoilers, or try not to anyway, as these guys definitely go to battle. And you are going to see those battles right in front of you now as we are off underway. Instantly, Michael Elms jumping up in position there. And it's a fantastic start from your leader, who's almost half a second in front of P2 at the minute. P2, Scott McFall, here he is on the Tanso Racing Group livery there. He's got quite a nice space between him and that bottom step of the podium in P3. And that's Sean Webber. So instantly, you do have an equidistant battle at the top, but nevertheless it's probably a battle that's going to continue for many corners to come. And here's a man that's getting involved in it straight away. That's Peter Woodmore. He did have a couple of cars backed up behind him, and now it seems like he's catching up into the pack that's just in front of him. So he's getting all in amongst it there in his bright green car. You can see him doing battles at the moment with Frederic there in the pure black car. Obviously, Frederic's car is quite easy to spot because it is the only one that is just matte black. There's nothing else on the car itself, which is nice to see sometimes, because it really does reflect what you see in the modern day racing. There aren't always cars with coated in sponsors, so that'll be one of them, driven by Mr. Frederic there. John Johnston obviously doing battle, as we saw just a moment ago. Stuart Briley did have to do some defending very momentarily, but doesn't have to no more. And Raz Harper dropping down the field, and you see Raz has actually gone off the track there slightly. Obviously he's going to have a bit of dirt on those tyres, but nevertheless Raz is a quick driver, and no doubt he'll be able to get back up the grid in no time at all. Let's go back to Kevin Woodmore looking up the inside line. Didn't go for the move in the It's Racing 207 car there. Looked to get his nose up the inside, but the space is there, just didn't go for it in the end. We do have a car on the outside, and that is Mr. Mark Proctor. There he is, sitting there on the infield. As we jump up towards Peter Woodmore here, he's in the other It's Racing car. The two Woodmore, I'm assuming brothers, correct me if I'm wrong, please, but these two absolutely flying in their GR86s week after week. It's fantastic to see those out there. It's good to see little family rivalries as well sometimes between these guys. And here is the Torpedo, absolutely flying at the minute, Raz Harper. And there's another car around at the moment as well. I think that's Chris Moore. That is Chris Moore off into the background, and having to go up a little bit, almost a bit of a hill start there on grass, which is not always pleasant to do. As John Kenny goes for the move up the inside, gets the overtake done, and plants his Tanso Racing Group GR86 in front there into P22 overall. Back towards Mr. Harper, who's got a bit of a comeback drive yet to go, and a hell of a comeback drive it's going to have to be as well if he wants to see himself past P15. It looked like he was going to go up the inside there, and just to explain something as well that we just saw, as Raz Harper does go up the inside, we'll get back to that in just a second. Goes to the move, does have his nose in front. That is the corner he spun out on before, but managed to keep it in line this time round. But just to take it back, what we saw there when the car went invisible, that is something that does happen in sim racing, especially iRacing, and that is when the car does go invisible. That is a sign of a poor connection. So sometimes the car will just disappear and then reappear at a later time. And it could be anywhere on the track as well, so it's not necessarily in the place you would expect it to reappear in. So it's always something that these drivers do have to be careful on. And yeah, it's not always the most enjoyable to try and predict where these cars are going to be when they have a little bit of blinkage, as I like to call it. And we've just seen a prime example of that as well. So looking towards the timing tower then, your closest man at the moment, or one of the closest, is Sean Webber, but the actual closer battle is between these three at the moment. Now, there's probably three names that we'll have to get familiar with because we'll probably see them battling out more than once. There's a battle box in the bottom right-hand corner then. You can see Craig Corish is down one position. He's the car we're focusing on at the moment. The P7 car number 13. He is the middle man there in the blue, black and white livery. Very nice livery, actually. Probably one of my favourites out there on the grid here today. But he is that car in the middle of that sandwich as Peter Duke does start running off into the distance as well. Scott Brown is having a fantastic race. He's quite far up the field for the AM class as well, so he's doing a top job. Raz Harper has just overtaken Frederic there. As you saw on the timing tower, they did just swap positions. So he is pushing his way up. Peter Woodmore is the next car on the list. He's currently down 10 positions. Does put his nose up the inside instantly. Goes for the move and he's gone just like that. You can see the bouncing on the way out of that turn there. And that's the amount of force and pressure he's putting into that GR86 as it comes flying through the corners. Jumping back to Craig Corish then. And he did momentarily drop down to P8. He lost a position there but gained it back again. He's now back to P7. As they go through the S's onto the back straight. And the back straight is more or less straight, but there is a slight kink in it some of the way down. And what I'll do is I will show you what I mean. So this is the back straight here, and here is the slight kink. So there's a little bit of a right-hander. Not by much, though. It's not enough to really put you off of your momentum or you know, ruin your line. A fantastic shot there from the gyro cam inside the vehicle, and no doubt we'll be counting on that a lot in this race. Dan Wareham has lost the position. He has gone down one position to P2. He's now chasing the leader of Scott McFall, who's in the Aqua Twist sponsored Tanso Racing Group GR86 in the front there. I almost got my words mixed up because normally I say that in a different order, but Scott McFall does lead the way. And he's going to be looking in the rear view mirrors quite a lot, I imagine. As there is Dan Wareham very, very close onto the back of this GR86. There's not much time between the two at all. Question is, can Scott McFall defend? Ooh, harsh on the brakes there for Mr. Dan Wareham. You can see how tight they hug that inside curb on the S-bends before the back straight, as we saw before. There's the DRS sign. There is no DRS on these cars. I can confirm that. However, that would be very interesting to see DRS on a Tim Top GR86. That would be something new, but maybe something for Red Bull to try and do, seeing as they've mastered everything else. As speaking of masters, master of the game is Dan Wareham, and that is the name we are going to see probably amongst the top of the table most of this season. Certainly a very quick driver. Same with Scott McFall as well, so credit where credit's due. These two certainly are very, very quick drivers indeed, and they'll have a lot to go for this season as well. Terry Atkinson was very close there to the back of Stuart Braley. So on the time and Terry is under a tenth of a second behind, and it looks like we've had an issue with Lee Rylands. In fact, yes, it is way off of the course, and having to almost do a U-turn to get back onto it. So not the ideal situation for Mr. Rylands there at all. So this man here, John Johnston, is he's the big boss man, P17 overall, trying to keep these guys behind him as well. Three cars, sorry, behind him. Pack of four is what I was meant to say. P17 overall spot right now. Not too bad from the big man himself. Car number 55, doing a good job this far. Dan Wareham once again was getting closer, but does back off ever so slightly. You'll notice that there will be con battles that we will be focusing on, because they are the ones that are getting the most fruity, shall we say, as these cars do get closer and further away as the laps go on. And Dan Wareham certainly is a tricky customer to keep behind and keep at bay as well, and that's something that I think Scott McFall might struggle with a little bit, as Dan Wareham does look towards the outside line, doesn't go for it in the end. Obviously, he would have had the advantage here in the S bends. There's quite a few corners in this track that is that are listed in my brain as S bends. So there's quite a few of those sort of close quarter left and rights, a bit like what we see at Silverstone as an example, and certainly good fun to race through as well. When you nail those and get them right, they certainly feel like ultra quick corners, and they do reward you big time as well. So it's always nice to have. Scrolling through the grid is Stuart Brierley here in P18, just behind Mr. Johnston. Looks towards the inside line. Does he go for it? No, he's not quite up alongside that vehicle, so he's not able to do it. I think even at a dive it would have been a hell of a stretch if he would have went for that. But he's just biding his time at the minute behind Mr. Johnston. And let's look towards Raz Harper then, as Raz Harper does go for the inside line here. Once again, we've seen this move many times. That seems to be his gold star move, his go-to. Every time he needs an overtake, he just sits that car right on the inside line and goes straight for it. Doesn't stop, and doesn't give the defenders a time to think before they get the move sorted. And speaking of getting the move done, exactly the same places where we just saw Raz get his overtake. Stuart Brierley did get an overtake done, but unfortunately John Johnston and Stuart Brierley do make contact. Mark Proctor takes advantage. Same with Chris Moore, as these guys look to try and spin around and get back onto track. There goes Mr. Brierley, and I think John Johnston, yeah, there he is, just behind. They do get going once more, but unfortunately they just came together on a fast bit of the track, on a fast exit, where it's a little bit too risky to sort of tap the brakes as you go around that corner, because that will send the back end out. And unfortunately these two did have a little bit of a kiss as they went into the exit of the corner, which sent both cars spinning, unfortunately. There, Frederic at the minute from the Netherlands, car number 222, pure black, right up behind Peter Woodmore in the 289 vehicle there. And it looks like Raz Harper and Tim Walters, well, they were battling out, and unfortunately Raz Harper is out, should we say, almost pretty much, because he is off track, and I believe with more contact there. But luckily, remember, damage is off for this series as well, so drivers don't really have to worry about any collisions too much. Obviously they try and avoid them, but if they happen, they happen. You know, your race isn't over. You can get your foot down and carry on, but obviously it's more the mental battle that you have with trying to keep focused and carry on all the good work that you've done so far. As the battles do spread out along the field now, we do see certain cars slowly coming together once more in this race. And this man's one of them, keeping his targets very close to him, and that is Frederic just in front of him. Sorry, no, Peter Woodmore just in front of Frederic there. And he's going to be looking to get the job done ASAP. With Raz Harper also trying to get his move done. Once again on Tim Walters, it's not going to be an easy job. We've seen him try once already, and unfortunately it didn't end up well for either one of these races, so they've got to be careful when it comes to doing battle here. They don't want a repeat of what happened a few corners ago. Can Raz Harper get around? He looks towards the outside line, because he knows it's going to give him an advantage going into the next corner, because he'll have the inside. He's still looking towards it, still looking towards it, still looking. And he does sort of get his nose up alongside, but then backs off ever so slightly. He's still trying to keep his nose there, but Tim Walters is doing a fantastic job at keeping his nose out of it, as he has to settle for another lap behind Mr. Walters. But he does get side by side now. Does he have the advantage into turn one? He does indeed. Raz Harper does go through. And there he goes off into the distance, just like that. The extra momentum he carried really has propelled him forward. As we jump towards Mark Proctor, who also is going for a move and has the inside line through the S-bends though, so this is going to be a tricky overtake to maintain. And as you can see there, the amount of I'd say the amount of time it actually destroys from you when you're trying to battle, when you're going in side by side into some of these corners, is incredible. You can see how much it actually slowed down Mark Proctor's car there as he looks towards the inside line once more against Kevin Woodmore. They are side by side going in to this right-hander now. As they get into the braking zone, Mark Proctor does look to hold the inside, but Kevin Woodmore's carried some incredible speed around that turn, gaining him the side-by-side on the inside line and managing to defend his position once more. So Mark Proctor's going to have to pull up more than just a rabbit from the hat. He's got to do something extra and something that Mr. Woodmore wouldn't predict, and he gets the inside line there. Can he make it work for himself? Oh, I thought that was it for Kevin Woodmore. I thought he was actually going off track there. He managed to keep it within the lines very, very well indeed. As these guys still remaining to do battle. And no stopping these guys at all once they get going. That is it. As we jump towards Frederic once more, who's still just on the rear end of Peter Woodmore. Like I said, there will be some names that will crop up a lot more than others, because these guys seem to be the ones that just constantly battle it out no matter what. One of those is Mark Proctor, who unfortunately is off track there as we jump towards him, but he's come back on. Can he keep that momentum going to keep on the back for Kevin Woodmore? It's 3/10 in it at the moment, and obviously that's dropped down ever so slightly as we go just under 3/10, and in fact we've gone right under 3/10. We've halved it now, as Mark Proctor does seem to have that momentum advantage on the back straight. Can he use this advantage? And he does take a heavily narrow line, inside line. Very, very strong inside line there to gain the momentum and get himself in front of Kevin Woodmore. That he does get that move done eventually, and he can be happy with that one. A lovely move down the straight, nice and easy. Hasn't affected the time or momentum for either vehicle, but a top quality move for you there, sir. Now let's head towards the top of the tower. Here he is, Scott McFall, still defending his lead in the Aqua Twist sponsored livery there. And the 3771 car is doing everything he possibly can to keep this lead. Dan Wareham very close on the rear end, and oh, it looks like we've lost Scott McFall. In fact, we really have lost Scott McFall. He gained airtime there on the S-bends towards the back straight, and here comes Dan Wareham now round that final turn onto the back straight, as Dan Wareham does take the lead of the race. He's jumped up into P1 overall, and now here is your top three as it stands: Dan Wareham, Sean Webber and Scott Brown. These three are going to be close together probably for the next couple of laps. And these next couple of laps probably will take us to the end of the first 20-minute race. Now remember, in the Tanso Racing Group season, they do have a top 6 reverse grid, so that P6 position will be pole for the second race. And not only that, they get an extra 5 minutes in the second race as well. So the second race will be a 25-minute race. Normally there is a 5-minute gap in between. However, we have managed to cut that out. So what we will do is we will quickly divert onto a different screen momentarily, and then we will bring you the second race, where we can get straight back into the action. So there is no rest for anyone here. It is just non-stop racing with these GR86s as we breach into the 18th minute of 20. And the lap times are 1 minute 37, so these guys might get one more lap just after this, and then that will be it for race 1. That'll be the last draining seconds for these guys to try and get their moves done and get those extra points that they so deserve, as it doesn't look like anyone on the grid is getting too close to each other. As I say that, Michael Walters did actually make a move on Terry Atkinson. I think Terry had a bit of a slip up with his car, as that time was basically in the yellow, which is between half a second and a second. And in fact, yeah, he seemed to have a little bit of an issue with that car and drop off some speed quite considerably. But Mr. Johnston here, P19, just behind Stuart Brierley. 3/10 is all that splits the two. And we've got Tim Walters, who's a couple of tenths now behind Michael Elms. Can he get the move done? He looks towards the inside line. Wow, look at that extra advantage there in the speed. Much later on the brakes, and Tim Walters does get the move done, and what a fantastic move it was as well. It's Dan Wareham here. Oh, switched to Dan Wareham, and he's in the middle of a drift as he manages to hold the lead at the moment. Moved towards cam number 3 here. There is your leader, Dan Wareham, going around for the final time of this race. This will be probably the battle that we stick on now towards the end of this race, and this man here is looking to pick off that P1 spot. He's going towards the back straight now. Question is he going to be able to keep this position? These guys still remain the same distance between each other. Not much splitting the three whatsoever. This is the battle for P1, and not only that, this is just the mix-up of the podium spots as well. So these guys are all wanting to overtake each other as soon as possible, but at the same time, they know they haven't got much time left. So not only are they going to be in a rush, but they're also going to be desperately trying to preserve their podium spots, because not far down the line is Mark Brown, only 3.4 seconds away. So any mistake from these three, and he could easily pounce and find his way onto the podium and knock one of these off. But they're all keeping it nice and neat so far. Dan Wareham, Sean Webber and Scott Brown is your current positions for the podium. That's your top three. Here they come into the final couple of corners now. Nothing between second and third whatsoever. There's Sean Webber there in the middle. But Dan Wareham does come across the line in P1, and Sean Webber P2 with Scott Brown in P3. So a wonderful race for them. And someone grabbed the coffin, because I don't think Dan Wareham's alive anymore. I think we might have lost Mr. Wareham. Someone please get him an ambulance. There's no way that he survived that crash. Absolutely horrific crash right there at the end of the session. But I can confirm, I've spoken to him since the race, and I'm pretty sure he is alive. So don't worry about the heavy collision there. As we wait for the last few cars to come across the line, we will bring you your results. And get ready for what is going to be a fantastic second race here this evening. Well, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. That brings our race 1 to an end. As we'll hide that track map there as we bring you your results for the first heat. And here they are as things stood. As they came across the line then, Dan Wareham did get that checkered flag with Sean Webber in P2 and Scott Brown in P3. Now, a key thing to note here is the top three were all different classes. So Dan Wareham in the pros, Sean Webber in the Pro-Ams, and Scott Brown in the Ams. So their overall positions were fantastic, but technically they all came P1 in their classes. And then we have Mark Brown just after that in P4, just missing out on a podium spot. Then we have Craig Corish P5, Peter Duke P6, Dan Forster P7, Adrian Hadfield P8, Raz Harper P9, Peter Woodmore, P10, and Tim Walters, P11. Then we have Michael Elms in P12. Then 13th, we have Lee Rylands. 14th, we have Mark Proctor. Chris Moore in P15. Then we have Michael Walters in P16. Then Michael, not Michael Walters, we've just said him. Then Terry Atkinson in P17. As the grid scrolls down, Stuart Briley P18, John Johnston P19, Kevin Woodmore P20, John Kenny P21, Scott McFall P22, Frederic in P23, and Mr. Jordan Hadfield in P24. So there is your results this far then. Now what we'll do is I will just switch over the screens as you just saw there, and we'll let time skip by and bring you the second race of action. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment. Here we are then, ladies and gentlemen. Second race yet to come. As we just wait for the grid positions to roll in. Here they come. So I can confirm Dan Wareham is not starting pole. Is it going to wake itself up? Or did the reverse grid not kick him? Well, we'll go down the list as it is on the left-hand side of your screen then. So we do have Dan Wareham, P1, Scott McFall, P2, Raz Harper, P3. And then we have Sean Webber, P4, Scott Brown, P5, Craig Corish, P6, Peter Duke, P7, Matt Brown, P8. And then we have Dan Forster, P9, Tim Walters, P10, Adrian Hadfield, P11, Lee Rylands, P12, Chris Moore, P13, Mark Proctor, P14, Frederic in the 222, P15, Peter Woodmore, P16, Michael Walters, P17. Then we have Michael Elms, P18, Kevin Woodmore, P19, John Johnston, P20, and Scott McFall, P21. And they're already off. In fact, they didn't even give me a chance to finish. These guys are that eager to get underway. As let's look towards the front of the grid. So Peter Duke was actually the lead of the race. So I'm not too sure entirely what happened there to the grid lineup, shall we say. But nevertheless, things are off and underway here with Mr. Duke leading the second race with Craig Corish just in behind and Sean Webber just in behind that as well. Obviously, Sean Webber bouncing off of a P2 finish there. Obviously, straight into the podium. Here he is. This is the man in third at the moment with those bright blue wheels on the 250 car there, the Simtech vehicle. As they go down through the back straight for the very first time into the sharp right-hander. There they go, as Sean Webber does look to try and get up into P2, and he does so indeed. And I'm pretty sure Craig Corish almost felt like he needed to give him that position in a way. It was a very good move, but it didn't look too tasty for Mr. Corish there. I think could have ended up in contact if he was planning to fight that one out. It might not have done, but you never know, and it's always better to be safe rather than sorry. Oh, I think we have a spin. We do. Craig Corish unfortunately spun it up on the corner exit there. Oh, that's caused another spin. And that's one of the Woodmores, I think. That's Peter Woodmore. Off into the gravel. Onto the grass, sorry. And he has got back underway. And like I mentioned in race 1, it's a good thing that damage is not on, because obviously there are incidents where we do have this and cars do collide with walls, with other vehicles, and it does hurt when you hit the wall and or you hit another car, and it ruins your race. But luckily for these guys, it won't do just that. Now Chris Moore has just overtaken Mr. Johnson, as we saw there. There he is, Chris Moore, P17 overall in the GR livery, number 32 there. Adrian Hadfield at the minute getting beyond Raz Harper, but that's going to be a tricky customer to beat because Raz Harper does have the inside line. Let's see how far ahead he gets then with this inside line. And in fact, he's not going to get far ahead at all. They're still going to be side by side into the right-hander. Adrian Hadfield does give Raz the way, and he settles for P7 at the moment. And then there's a long train of cars in behind him. Let's go through some of them. We have Tim Walters just behind, and Mark Proctor here as well. Lee Rylands just behind that. Michael Elms just off the back of this train. So good amount of cars just behind Adrian, so he does have to be careful and make sure he makes no mistakes if he wants to seal a top 10 finish. As we jump back towards Mark Proctor, who is in amongst it. He's in the middle, and there we go. There's another spin, and I think that's Tim Walters on the exit. Exactly the same corner that we just had another car spin on. And, oh, there's another one gone as well. They're falling like absolute bowling pins at the minute, I think is the best way to describe it. One after another, they kind of ricochet off each other. It is a bit worrying when a car does spin in front of you. Your instant reaction is brake or steer away, or that is the instant human reaction. So it's easy to control the car if you just forget about all of that and basically have a very blank look on your face. But obviously your natural reaction to that will be snapping the car steering or slamming on the brakes, and either way it's not going to end well for you because you could end up putting yourself in the wall with sudden jolts like that. So not always ideal, but these things happen in racing, and it's just one of those things you do have to deal with as we look towards Dan Wareham, who once again is pushing for a second victory. He is looking for that P1 spot, and he wants to take it from Sean Webber. You can see that as the time really did start going down. It's bounced back up just a little bit, but not by a lot at all. As Dan Wareham still within a couple of attempts of that lead at the moment. If he can get that lead, then he can basically almost control the pace and control the pack behind him. And what a fantastic night of racing it has been for Mr. Dan Wareham. Fantastic display. And no doubt many, many more to come as well. Quickest lap at the minute is Scott McFall, 136.7. And he's absolutely flying around this track as it stands right now. Peter Woodmore getting in amongst it as well in the green It's Racing livery. Number 289. He's now on the back of Mr. John Johnston. On towards the back straight once more. And that extra 5 minutes that these guys had given to him for race 2, that has now already been and gone. So now these guys are really in crunch time because they're into their usual time of 20 minutes. So they now have 20 minutes to get the jobs done and get their moves sorted to maximise their point scoring for this second race. Raz Harper and Adrian Hadfield once more going at it, and Raz Harper this time does get the advantage, and off he goes through past Adrian, and he's off into the distance almost already. So Adrian Hadfield looked like he was defending against Lee Rylands, who has backed off ever so slightly, and Michael Elms and Mr. Corish also going at it and doing battle as well, as they were side by side in the background of our pictures we are shown there. Dan Forster looks to close down the gap as much as possible, and you can see the time is going down to Peter Duke just in front. Obviously Peter Duke starting this race in P1. That will be shown by our wonderful batter box in the bottom right hand corner. Fantastic display this far then. These guys doing an absolutely top job with the racing we've seen out there today. Now, if you take a look at the top of your screens then, you'll see the Pro-Ams. We do have Mr. Webber leading, and Dan Forster does go for the move up on the inside, moves his way up onto the podium spots then, past Peter Duke. So the 200 car does move up and push beyond. See Mark Proctor also getting in amongst it, trying to get into that top 10, squeeze his way into there. It's not going to be easy, and he's actually suffered one position there, sorry, so that puts him down to P12 rather than going upwards, so he's going the wrong way on the grid. He'll be looking to bring that back as soon as possible, but back to the top of the screens, you'll see that Webber is leading for the Pro-Ams. Obviously, he is leading overall as well by half a second to Dan Wareham. And then, obviously, in the Pros, we have Dan Wareham leading his class. And in the AMs, we have Peter Duke, who sits P4. And he is the leader of the AMs. So all of these, at the minute, are P1 in their class. Looks like Dan Wareham is getting really close to our leader, and I wouldn't have thought it would be long until we see a move done by Mr. Wareham. Battle of the light blue wheels, it seems, as they both come down with the same shade in them. Now, I'm not too sure if these guys are teammates or not, but they've got the same style livery, just slightly different colour variations. But the blue does match, so they could well be teammates. But they're not letting that stop them do battle, as Dan Wareham does take the lead just in front of Sean Webber. Had to go awfully wide on the turns there to get by, and wide he went, and it actually paid off quite well for Mr. Wareham, and I thought he almost lost the back end there, but managed to keep it in play and keep going on around the track. So fantastic stuff for Mr. Wareham, who is looking to score his second victory and really maximise his points for today's racing, as that would be 2 back-to-back wins. So that would be a fantastic result if Wareham can pull this off, but we still do have 15 minutes to go yet, so there's still a long time technically in this race, and it definitely feels a lot longer obviously when you're in these vehicles, especially in the GR86s, which aren't the quickest car in the world, but they, yeah, races feel more like endurance races almost. But it's all worth it because they're so even out there. It's all based on driver skill. So it's great to see these guys racing them so hard and really pushing their GR86s to their limits. And some of them we have heard so far tonight screeching through the corners. As we have Craig Corish here, sitting P8 overall. Looking to get by Lee Rylands, who's just sitting in front of him, onto the back straight kink, leading towards the braking zone for that right-hander. There we are, side by side for Craig Corish and Lee Rylands, and Craig Corish loses the back end, unfortunately, taking a little bit too much momentum, I think, into that corner, and the back end just spins on him, and he's not able to control it or even bring it back in time. And unfortunately he does concede a good amount of positions there, down to P17 overall, and it's not the most ideal thing for him, but no doubt he will try and redeem as much as he possibly can in the time we have left. We look towards Mark Proctor, who at the minute is doing battle again, and there's a little bit of contact there between Michael Elms and Scott McFall, I believe, as those two are, let's say, extremely happy to battle out. And unfortunately Michael Elms does spin as they do come door to door, and he does spin around sadly and loses several positions there. Here's Michael Walters, Coming through in his orange and black car there with the Aqua Twist sponsor across the banner, sticking out nice and bright as well for him. So he goes towards the, or onto the back straight and round by the kink. See moves opening up in the background. John Johnston having to defend against Peter Woodmore. And Peter unfortunately can't get the can't make the move stick, and has to settle in just behind Mr. Johnston, which I know he won't be happy with, because he'll want to try and get Johnston as soon as possible to push up the field and try and look towards a P10. But really, the distance between these two and the next cars up the field seem to limit them a little bit, because there's going to be no drafting or extra advantage there with any form of slipstream. Stuart Briley trying to take John Johnston on the outside. They do make contact, and Stuart Briley off the track. Comes back on though, and still right on the rear end of Mr. Johnston's car. You can see how squirrely that back end is getting for Stuart Briley. Almost looks hard to control, to be fair, with the amount of kick it's giving on some of these corners. And what we'll do is we'll jump up to Mr. Lee Rylands, who's trying to close the gap on the car ahead. That is what you call a pack of cars, ladies and gentlemen. All of these guys close together. 3 cars from the Tanso Racing Group livery as well. So 3 of those representing the league, and doing a stellar job of it, doing a fantastic work in their vehicles. You see Lee Rylands is unable to make the move, but Scott Brown, I thought was able to take advantage, but unfortunately he spun it. Luckily he went in between all the cars and didn't have much of an issue collecting any teammates at all. See just in front there, Mr. Hadfield defending once again, and it seems like that's all Hadfield's had to do in these 2 sessions today, is just defend the position he's got. But he's done a fantastic job of it so far. He's not made it easy for any vehicles at all when they've tried to get the overtake on him. So he's made everyone's life difficult with that in terms of his defence. As you can see on the track map, these cars royally spreading out now. Massive gaps between certain packs. But you see the classes are kind of all over the place still, so there's still an even mix amongst different classes fighting each other. As we see Lee Rylands into P8, unfortunately losing a position there to Scott McFall, who's just up ahead. Obviously having a good race 1 up until the slight contact in the S's, which sent him absolutely flying across the grass, and literally flying as he hit the ramp towards the end, which bumped him over the track pretty much, and he then got a tow back to the pit. Adrian Hadfield unfortunately losing a position to Scott McFall as well, so he takes a heavily inside line there against Lee Rylands to stop him from coming around. But once again, Hadfield finds himself in P7, so he's just got to do a little bit extra to get that defensive work nailed and stop anyone from coming through, whether that be Lee Rylands or Mark Proctor. And here's a close-knit battle. Scott Brown up to P14. Look at the extra momentum he's carrying, as John Johnston is now, well, they were side by side, they were next to each other, but now Scott Brown has backed off and let the big boss man get through the corner, and it looks like now he might look at going up on the inside possibly of this straight. Will he do so? He's going to get a little bit closer now as the straight goes on, and into turn 1 he does just sit single file. I don't think he's really close enough to make a move. You can see there is the move that's done. Scott Brown does find his way in front of Mr. John Johnston. great bit of switching up for Scott Brown. In the number 58 to get by the boss man. Heading towards Mark Proctor, who's on the back of this 3-car battle, and that involves Lee Rylands, Adrian Hadfield, two names that obviously we've mentioned very, very recently, and they're still battling it out once more as we now approach the last 7 minutes of this race. Not much time to go for these guys to get their overtakes done, and this will be the part where if I was one of these drivers at the minute, maybe the nerves will start to kick in if I'm in a high up position. Obviously being down where I'm half a second in front of P2, I definitely would be a bit nervous if I was him. But obviously they don't have to worry too much because there's a 9.4 second gap between second and third, so they've got a bit of a safety bracket, but not much of one. You know, they still need to keep half an eye out at least, as we see Tim Walters push up the grid. Now P17 overall. Craig Corish once more coming into view, into battle here, into the S's, towards the back straight, and there's that lovely blue 13 car along the right-hander. Very long right-hander at that as well, and this is where you get your foot down and you really do push on to try and get that maximum speed out of the car. As these guys cruise up towards the next turn, we're going to jump towards Mark Proctor. Again, still on the back end of this 3-car battle. Can he get the move done? Can he set himself up to slide in between them? Who knows how he's going to make the move or when he's going to make the move. But all we know is that he's got to before basically within the next 5 minutes he needs to get that move done. And I think no doubt if Mark Proctor did get in front, I think he would be able to defend that advantage he'd have until the end of the race, because we are now getting down to what a lot of people tend to call Fergie time. We're into the last few minutes, so this is where things could either go all really well or all terribly. As we see Raz Harper clearing off into the distance once more. Up onto P3, onto the podium spot. As you can see, it's 11.7 seconds now to the car ahead. Now make that 12. So the leaders are absolutely gone. And Raz Harper now going to have to play the catch-up game. But it's either that or he goes all defensive and tries to hold the podium from Dan Forster or Peter Duke, who started P1 this race. Obviously did Duke down to P5. Not a terrible drop or position, but certainly one you wouldn't want to be in if you knew you were starting P1. So we look towards Lee Rylands now, and the time is really coming down between these guys in this battle. 4 minutes is all that's going to hold for battles now. Not much time whatsoever to try and get the move done, or even look to set up a move that you might try in a couple of laps' time. Keep dipping into one of the mirrors of the car. Try and put that driver off in front. And that's all of what's going to be going through the heads of these drivers, Lee Rylands and Mark Proctor, who are sitting behind Adrian Hadfield, who's a very good defender, as we found out from today. Done an absolutely perfect job with making people's lives difficult when it comes to them trying to overtake him. So he's done incredibly well there. You see John Kenny on the outside there of the S's. Let all these cars by, which is very nice, and these guys can crack on, get underway, and carry their battle on through for another lap. It seems like all the battles aren't really starting to spread out now. There's not much between any of the cars apart from the one we are focusing on at the moment. And there goes Lee Ryland, sort of swung his car out a little bit, and unfortunately Mark Proctor can't capitalise from that angle. He's not able to get his car in front or in a position where he feels comfortable to make the move. I think these three are probably going to end up going at it until the end of the race. Not much time left until they finish though. As you can see, Lee Ryland's there having to stick to the outside line for Mark Proctor, who does take the inside, gets in front there, sends Lee Ryland down to P9, but can Lee get the cut back? And unfortunately he doesn't, so he's just going to have to settle in behind Mark Proctor through the S's. This is going to give Adrian Hadfield some time to relax and try and defend his lines a little bit better as well, as now it's going to be even more difficult, being further behind, to get that job done. As these three do now start spreading out, and now that they have started to spread out, let's look towards Terry Atkinson then at the minute, and he's going through the S's now onto the back of Stuart Brierley, not too far up the road, a little bit of a gap between the two, but he's taken a wide entry into that corner and a very late apex on to the back straight, heading towards the kink. Here is Dan Wareham. There is Barney with the white flag. See our leader now on the last lap, looking for 2 race victories this evening, and what a fantastic race it would be. Sean Webber 9 seconds behind. Let's look back towards where Sean Webber is. Here he is coming onto the back straight now. There he goes. Now he's on the back straight, and there's your leader off in the distance. Here he is here, coming in towards the braking zone for the right-hander. So he is absolutely gone and miles up the road with this lead as it stands right now. Peter Duke is right on the back of Dan Forster. Not much between those two, but they're taking completely different lines. And this is almost going to be a 3-car battle. There's a little bit of contact there that sends Peter Duke down a position, in fact, rather than up, which is not ideal for him. Adrian Hadfield having to defend against Mark Proctor. Not the easiest thing to do in the world, no doubt at all. Scott McFall pushing up the grid once more as we approach the last couple of corners of this lap. Let's go back towards your leader. Here he is then, a fantastic race 1 and an incredible drive for race 2. There he goes up towards the line, and there he is, P1, second time over. Fantastic race for him, and a wonderful result for him and his team as they finish 2 P1s in the same evening. Sean Webber P2, Raz Harper P3. See Raz Harper having a hell of a drive in the race 1, but unfortunately had nothing to show for it in terms of a trophy, but he certainly will here after race 2. As we wait for all these cars to finish this race and get across the grid, as we focus on John Kenny and wait for him to bring his car across the line for the final time. Obviously, if you want to get yourselves involved in the Tanso Race Group, you can do so, obviously, by jumping in and joining their Discord and letting them know what you're interested in. Is it the GR86s, the GT3s, or the Super Formula Lights, I think they're called. So, yeah, plenty of options out there, plenty of different races and series So get yourself stuck in, and it doesn't hurt just to join and ask a question. You know, no one's gonna get too hurt by that. So if you want to come and find out some more details, you know where to do so through the Tanso Racing Group Discord. And it's a fantastic place to be, no matter what your skill level is, whether it's rookie, you're brand new to the sim, or you're an experienced vet and you just want to try and get some winning experience underneath your belt, then this could be the place for you. It's a fantastic place to start, and a fantastic place to carry on your league adventures, as John Kenny does make it across the line there to end off this night of racing. So here is your results for race 2. Dan Wareham, a fantastic P1 result. Sean Webber, P2. Raz Harper, P3. Then we have Scott McFaul P4. Dan Forster, P5. Then we have Peter Duke, P6. Adrian Hadfield, P7. Mark Proctor, P8. Lee Rylands, P9. Chris Moore, P10. Michael Walters, P11. Scott Brown, P12. Craig Corish, P13. Peter Woodmore, P14. John Johnston, P15. Michael Elms, P16. And we've got Tim Walters in P17. And as the grid scrolls down, we have Stuart Briley, P18. Then we have Terry Atkinson, 19th, and Kevin Woodmore in at P20. That rounds off your top 20 there. John Kenny, P21. Mark Brown, P22. Frederic in P23. And Jordan Hadfield, once again, in P24. So fantastic racing overall tonight here from the Tanso Racing Group. Now, because obviously this racing did happen on the Sunday, we won't have any interviews to bring to you this evening, so it will just be a lovely and swift goodbye from me. But I appreciate each and every one of you for joining us here tonight. It's been absolutely wonderful sharing this racing with you, and I look forward to many times that we can do this over and over again. But for now, until the next round out on Sunday, we'll see you again very soon. Stay safe. And yeah, hope you all have enjoyed. Thank you and goodbye.